The killer phrase was at the end when Kimmel said, "You just don't realize it." Because you see, he's smarter than you, and he needs you to know that. And his ego can't bear that there's someone out there more famous and more influential than him. I got news for you, Kimmel. The last time you mattered, Bruce Jenner still had a
million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a little silly.
What happens when a comedian once famous for outrageous stunts, edgy punchlines, and zero-filter humor suddenly positions himself as a moral compass for the entire nation? In Jimmy Kimmel's case, that transformation didn't just raise eyebrows. It triggered backlash, disbelief, and an intense wave of criticism that refused to stay quiet.
The other late-night host threw a hissy fit. It's too bad Tim Waltz is still grieving, or he could send them all a sack of industrial-strength tampons.
You all know what they saw. They saw what we saw. They saw the frail elderly man who needed help getting off the stage. They're just too chicken shit to tell us about it because they accurately deduced that he could still be the Democratic nominee and they don't want to ding him up. Maybe you give Barbara a pass. Who gives a damn what this singer saw or says? But you know what? Jimmy Kimmel happens to be employed by ABC, which happens to have a rather large news organization. And he has been one of President Trump's most vocal critics. Where are you, Jimmy? On vacation? Not good enough. You can still use your thumbs to send out a tweet. You could set the record straight right now, but you...
At the center of this clash wasn't merely a change in comedic tone. It was the widening, impossible-to-ignore gap between Kimmel's well-documented past and his current, lecture-heavy persona. That contrast fueled loud accusations of hypocrisy, spreading fast across media, commentary shows, and social platforms.
True, it was a terrible night for women, children, and for the hundreds of thousands of hard-working immigrants who cut his lawn.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate.
Picture it clearly. The former king of cable sarcasm now standing on shaky ground. Charging into this public showdown were Greg Gutfeld, the sharp-tongued, self-styled king of late-night cable comedy, and Megyn Kelly, the relentless former prosecutor-turned-media powerhouse. Both were determined to dismantle what they viewed as Kimmel's carefully polished and ultimately artificial reinvention.
Last night was the 96th Academy Awards show, and while you might have missed it, there was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Winner number one, Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times. Yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal. Absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a spooky...
To understand the controversy, you have to rewind to a media era that feels almost unrecognizable today. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Jimmy Kimmel co-hosted The Man Show, a testosterone-fueled spectacle built on shock value, unapologetic humor, and a proudly provocative tone that pushed boundaries without hesitation.
For everyone who voted against him, and guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
You know what? If I ever cry on TV, it'll be because Maroon 5 put out a new song. But that's it! You big Now...
Signature segments, from women jumping on trampolines to the infamous Juggy Dance Squad, became either legendary or notorious. They sparked outrage while pulling massive ratings, aimed squarely at a male-centric audience. But as Kimmel's career evolved, a dramatic transformation began to take shape, one that would later come back to haunt him.
Just this past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane, and he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored? At the Kennedy Center. You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface?
Oh,
Billy
yeah.
Crystal. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced darning socks Oprah.
Every public figure carries a past, but for comedians whose careers thrive on crossing lines, that past can become a ticking time bomb. For Kimmel, the skeletons in his comedy closet didn't just rattle. They took center stage. And thanks to the internet's unforgiving memory, nothing stayed buried.
Late night host Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air after taking the summer off. He's missed a lot. Kimmel says if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't get a hospital ICU bed. But I'm not sure if Jimmy was being sincere because he wasn't crying. Anyway, it's just funny hearing someone say I see you who nobody actually sees. Look, I don't want to suggest that Kimmel's show has become boring and predictable, but last night during the taping, people in the studio audience were changing the channel.
At the top of the resurface controversies was the infamous Karl Malone impersonation. A recurring bit featuring full blackface and an exaggerated voice, it stands out today as deeply insensitive in an era far more aware of racial context and consequences. Clips of the routine quickly became ammunition for critics.
The Sunday morning show with Stephanopoulos into the evening Academy Awards broadcast with Kimmel and ABC elevating, the blackface lovin' Kimmel. They, at the same time, fired Chris Harrison, host of The Bachelor, for trying to defend one contestant on, The Bachelorette for saying, gee, I know I went to this antebellum party, a couple years ago. I guess I didn't see anything wrong with it. And all he said was, are we judging her by today's standards or are we judging her by, old standards, whatever. He was basically trying to say, are we being too hard on her? Got fired. Chris Harrison has to be fired by ABC. I don't know why, because he's not a committed leftist, because he's not out there more saying all the terrible things about Republicans that Jimmy Kimmel says. So this is them saying, we get it. We're an ally, right? And I guess maybe they're trying to make up with their racist past, without ever.
The same performer who once leaned into stereotypes now speaks with the tone of a moral authority. And the Malone bit wasn't isolated. Kimmel's impersonation of Oprah Winfrey followed a similar pattern: dark makeup, padding, and exaggerated caricature. These moments weren't forgotten relics. They resurfaced as central exhibits in the case against his credibility.
Jimmy's career peaked with busty girls on trampolines. Now the only boob we see is him. He once co-hosted The Man Show. Now he's sobbing like he just watched Steel Magnolias 3 days into his menstrual cycle.
Into this already charged atmosphere stepped Greg Gutfeld, a figure steadily building his own late-night empire. His Fox News show gained traction through sharp, edgy, conservative-leaning monologues that began challenging traditional network giants and reshaping the late-night landscape.
I will tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1 million, 778,000. I mean, for network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV, you plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, it has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible. And
Gutfeld's primary weapon against Kimmel was his claim of moral overcompensation syndrome. He argued Kimmel's preachy, emotionally charged persona wasn't growth, but camouflage, a way to bury a controversial past beneath performative virtue. Then Gutfeld went for the jugular: ratings. He routinely compared viewership numbers, framing Kimmel's decline as proof audiences were rejecting lectures in favor of humor. He even mocked Kimmel's on-air tears, joking they were watering the seeds of irrelevance, quipping that if he ever cried on TV, it would be over a new Maroon 5 song. The jab resonated with viewers exhausted by moral scolding. While Gutfeld's approach was comedic bombardment, Megyn Kelly's strategy was methodical and precise. Through her independent platform, she dissected Kimmel's image with prosecutorial focus. She highlighted the man show's sexism and crude humor, sharply contrasting it with his modern sanctimony. "He was America's drunk uncle," she remarked, "and now he wants to be its conscience." Kelly also exposed what she saw as corporate double standards, questioning why ABC and Disney shielded Kimmel while swiftly cutting ties with others over lesser controversies. Her critiques peeled away his polished exterior, spotlighting accountability gaps and institutional bias.
These fellas are experiencing deep mental pain. And it's not just them. Journalists are now offering tips to deal with their disappointment, frustration, even fear. And I get it. That's normal after any loss. I'm still mad about losing world's sexiest man to Johnny Depp. But why would people feel fear? Maybe because their only news sources are constantly telling them Trump's going to turn America into Nazi Germany. But you know who felt actual fear during the Biden administration? People who had to ride the subway or have to buy groceries.
Amid viral clips and relentless scrutiny, Kimmel's response, or lack of one, became its own storyline. Some supporters claimed silence was strategic. Others saw a man cornered by his own history, unable to defend the indefensible. His quiet spoke loudly. Compounding the issue was Kimmel's sharp political pivot. His aggressive anti-Trump stance energized some viewers while alienating many others. A flashpoint came at the 2024 Oscars, when a pointed Trump joke was criticized as smug and self-congratulatory, reinforcing claims that his comedy had narrowed into predictable partisanship. Together, Gutfeld's satire and Kelly's precision steadily chipped away at Kimmel's curated persona, sparking a broader debate about celebrity reinvention, accountability, and authenticity. This wasn't just about Jimmy Kimmel. It reflected a cultural moment where audiences are increasingly skeptical of celebrity moral authority and where independent media challenges legacy power. Kimmel's saga shows what happens when the past collides violently with the present, raising an uncomfortable question for entertainers everywhere. Can anyone truly reinvent themselves under the spotlight? And what does that mean for the future of late-night comedy?